Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Devil's Advocate Trades Edition. I'm your host, Lisa McGrath. With me today is Erin from Sunforge Energy, which is really interesting. I did do some research on the company, and it looks like this is all about solar panels. So she's going to take us down a solar road. And I'm super excited about it because one of the things I love the most is that I get to speak to another female in trade. So yay us. Welcome to the show, Erin. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I agree. It's not every day I get to talk with another lady in the trades. So it's awesome.
It's true. There's not too many of us, and most of us are usually on the ground working our butts off. So it's a different beast, construction for sure. So I did some research on your company, and I'm curious. And here's the thing. So when Michael and I first had the conversation, because you and I got introduced through Podcast AI, which is my guy's Mike Hammond. And one of the interesting things that he was talking to me about, he's like, she's really cool. She's really fascinating. You should talk to her. And I was like, sure, but I'm in Alberta, and Alberta's not huge on solar because of our climate.
Sure.
So, and I was like, but I'm fascinated. Like, there's all these different new technologies to keep, our ecosystem in check and not to continue to destroy it. So, and we've got lots of natural resources that we can pull from in order to, create the energy we need to run our homes and whatnot. So it's not that I don't find it fascinating. I know it's something that I will probably never do living in Alberta because of the amount of snow and hail and probably not. Although I will say Alberta is the sunniest province.
I didn't know that actually. I'm originally from Canada. I've never been to Alberta, but I have family that lives there, and I'm currently in Florida, but I started in solar in Michigan. And believe it or not, even in the northern areas, if your electric rates are extremely exorbitant, like they are in Michigan, it can still make financial sense even with less sun. It's very situational. So if you're paying a very low rate for your electricity, then solar wouldn't make sense because it's going to cost more than what you would be paying. So every market is very different. But what does stay consistent from market to market is that putting solar on a house that you plan to own for a long time, it locks in your costs. And in many places in the States, and I'm not as familiar with Canada's utility companies, but many places in the States we're seeing just very extremely high rate increases year over year, sometimes 10, 20, 30% or more in a single year, or sometimes even in a fraction of a year. But one of the most important things, because there is such a wide variety of situations based on where you live and who your utility company is having someone really honest and also really knowledgeable to teach you about it. No matter what your situation is, it's going to be very important to have all the data that you need to make an informed decision.
I love that you said that. And let me tell you why, because super funny right now. In the last couple of years, we've had people coming around door to door, trying to sell us solar. And I'm like, do you know where we live? And they're like,
in Alberta, really?
Yeah. And they're like, I know. And they're like, oh, we could do this, we could do that. Your neighbors bought. I'm like, oh, which neighbors? Because I know most of my neighbors, and we're all in construction. And if they're going to make any large purchase like this, they're usually going to talk to me and be like, hey, Lisa, what have you heard? And so I'm like, which neighbor? And they're like, oh, the neighbor just, 2 doors down. I'm like, the neighbor 2 doors down is named this. Is this who you have? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, then which neighbor? And and so then they would be like, oh, well, maybe they're like 4 more. And I'm like, you know what? How about you just stop bullshitting? Because you're not selling solar in Alberta in the suburbs. And we're like, so I'm actually, so I'm not in Calgary. I'm in Airdrie. So Airdrie is 20 minutes outside of Calgary. And I'm like, when solar is a great idea for inner city, because there's not a whole lot of snow that's going to hit those rooftops the same way as they will out in the suburbs where we get, because we've got microclimates out here. So where it could be like it could be like +10. It might be raining over where I am and vice versa in the south side of Calgary. And then not even that, but just you could be driving down the highway and you're like 5 minutes outside of Airdrie and then there's rain and then there's not, or there's snow and then there's not. And we're like, oh, because we get like some really big hail events. We get massive wind events. We get like, it's like the weather out here is super precarious. And so I'm like, I'm not putting something on my roof that could get ripped off. So, and not only that, but then I worry about insurance, right? Like, what's insurance going to do? Are they going to cover this? And when I was talking to some insurance people, they were like, no, that's your cost. And I was like, oh,
sure.
That's nice. So,
and again, that's going to also be market specific too. Like in an area where there's more and more solar, the insurance companies, they start covering it and they start, working out a lot of companies, they don't have it in their fine print. And so they just say it's not covered if you haven't. But in Florida, and that's a super important conversation because, most solar people, like your door-to-door people that you mentioned, they don't like to talk about that. And it is a super important thing because people don't want to put solar on their house and then find out their insurance company drops them because of it or something like that. So there are lots of solar-friendly insurance companies and lots of not solar-friendly insurance companies. So you have to know which one you have. Yeah. And personally, I've never had a problem helping a client get appropriate coverage with a company that does cover the panels, but it's part of due diligence and it's part of, I think part of being honest in this industry is making sure that the homeowner knows about all of those logistics involved so that they don't feel like they're being taken advantage of or having the wool pulled over their eyes or something like that. Because solar is a great thing, but it has to be right for the situation.
Yeah. So that's why I love what you're saying, like how you're like, it depends on the market. It depends where you live. It depends on what kind of like what your electrical bills are. Like, is this something that makes sense for you? Because it is an investment. It is an investment that will be beneficial in the long run. But if you're staying at your house for 5 years and you're going to flip it, it might not be a good solution to invest that kind of money, like that type of money into it. So it's looking for those people that are going to spend 15 to 30 years in their house, and they're getting it right around the first or second year that they're moving in. So, which is great. And I love that honesty about you. Thank you for being so honest, because there's a lot of people, they just want to sell the product because they're on a commission or they're on, you know what I mean? And they're just like, and you're sitting there, like you said, and people get buyer's remorse very quickly when that happens. And so that's why people like me exist, because I'm a contracting consultant. So I deal with construction consulting on projects for condos. So if a condo came to me and said, Lisa, we want to get solar panels, I'm going to look at what area they're in. I'm going to look at their heating bills. I'm going to look at the startup costs, all of it, right? And does it make sense for every owner? Because not every owner in there is going to want to do that. So did you guys take a vote that this is something that should happen? And does everyone agree with it in a sense, right? But those are things that I like when I'm dealing with people, because it makes it easier to take somebody, when you talk about marketing, people always say, so the best thing you can have is market cheerleaders. Not necessarily that your marketing is supreme and you have 5,000 ads, because then you just get annoyed. Most people get annoyed with you. But if you have marketing cheerleaders that are like, oh my God, I love this person. They're great. They'll come in and they'll look at everything and they'll be like, you know what? Solar isn't right for you on this house, but maybe your next house will come out and we'll review this. Because in Alberta, just so you know, for the electricity, we have a few different vendors for electricity or suppliers. And what we're all noticing, I think it's across Canada, but what we're all noticing is that the amount of like bullshit administration fees is astronomical. That's what we're noticing. So we're paying like at the end of the day, for what we're utilizing and what we're paying are two different things. So it's like we use like X amount of kilojoules, or we use X amount of like, pounds of like gas or whatever, pressure for gas, whatever. And it's minimal. So our cost for is like $21, $17, maybe, $40. But then our bills are like $300. And we're like, well, how? And it's all like, it's like supply and administration and like, different types of taxes on it. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
And then the one that I know everybody giggles about is the delivery fee. And I'm like, delivery fee? I'm like, I'm like,
Yeah, 100%. And most people don't know that. I mean, depending on your location and where the energy is being produced, around, I believe it's an average of around 70% of the electricity actually gets lost before it gets to its destination, which is crazy when you think about it. Um, so the delivery chart, yeah, they split it up into all this different stuff, in my opinion, to make it more difficult for you to understand actually what you're paying. Like you said, there's taxes, there's fees. Again, those are going to be completely different depending on the utility company and the area. In many states, there's a monopoly on energy. So we have kind of a perfect storm where we have the utility companies that have no reason to treat us any better. They're trying to make their bill as confusing as possible for you to understand. And then on the other side of things, we have solar, which is really the only competition for the utility companies. And in solar, one of the main problems with it, I mean, there's a few problems in the industry, but one of the main problems is the lack of any required training or certification for anyone in the solar industry that is selling the product or consulting with a homeowner. And if you think about it, when you buy insurance, when you buy a house, you have a realtor, you have an insurance agent, those people have to get training. They have to be certified or licensed or whatever in order to do what they do. And that is to protect the homeowner. That's to make sure they have a baseline of knowledge so that they at least can perform their job, and they have like at least typically, some set standard of integrity for what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And in solar, that doesn't exist. These salespeople only get trained basically by the organization that hires them, which, when you have big corporations with executives at the top and regional managers and, sales managers, and then you've got your sales reps at the bottom end, they can get hired and be selling the product the very next day, basically parroting off facts from their manager. And their manager might not even have any training or certification. And just to illustrate how big the problem is, like, I went out of my way to get certified with the North American Board of Certified Energy Professionals, or NABCEP. And it is, they have different certifications based on what you do, whether you're installing or you're in sales or whatever. So, but for the certification that I have, there is, no joke, only 229 of us in all of North America.
Must be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the reasons I'm so vocal on social media and just in general, I'm kind of a whistleblower in my industry, because I am sharing the truthful things that many other people in my industry don't want to share because they feel like it's going to hurt their sales or their commissions. And yeah, that is true. But how can you sleep at night when you are selling a product by holding back information that you should be disclosing? So
I agree with you. And I see now why Michael thought we would connect, because I'm very ethical. So I love that about you. And I think that everybody should have training when they're going to be doing stuff like this. Like, I didn't wake up one morning and say, I'm going to be a consultant. Like, I've got tickets and certifications and diplomas, and you know what I mean? So I went and got the education I needed, and I continue to do education. So it's really important when I hear that from people, that they are going to get the necessary education to be able to speak on it. And then to have the integrity and ethics to be like, listen, this might not work for you. Or listen, this isn't part of your budget. This is going to blow your bank. And it's really, at the end of the day, just going to frustrate you. And it's not a good fit right now. And I think that that's an amazing way to be, because you're absolutely right. You get these people, and I'll tell you how they sleep at night. They sleep at night because they don't give a shit, is really what it comes down to. They're all about what they can get. People nowadays, I hate to say this, but the majority of people nowadays, which is really interesting to me because so many people were raised better than this, but they're opportunists.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care who gets hurt in it. I made my money today. And it's like,
yeah, I agree.
So But then I'm like, well, karma exists for a reason. Sometimes I'm karma, sometimes somebody else is karma. All
Yeah.
depends.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I appreciate that you have this type of knowledge, and that like I am fascinated by solars. So I mean, like I know that when you've got, so like it's funny because a lot of people are like, oh well, Alberta should be great because it has so much sun. Like Vancouver, who doesn't get a lot of snow, they get a lot of rain and don't have a lot of sun. So in BC gets sun, but not near, like we could be minus 50 and it like the sun is out in full capacity. And it's like that in Alberta all the time. It could be minus 40, it could be, plus 20, it could be plus 30, whatever. I know. Well, you lived in Canada. I'm sure you can do the conversion. I'm sorry. But but regardless, I mean, we've got other provinces that don't have the type of climate we have, where there's lots of snow and lots of hard cold and lots of very fast and hard wind. And I'm like, but they don't have a lot of sun. So
right.
When we're dealing with solar, because I've heard people say if the sun is not out, like it doesn't have to be bright, but if it's not out, there's going to be an interruption.
Yeah, that's true. Most modern panels, will use any type of light in the spectrum. So you're going to still get some production if it's cloudy or if it's like, nearing nighttime or whatever, you'll still get some production. It definitely drops on the cloudy days. One important thing to know though, is that when you have any like legitimate solar company that cares about their clients and is doing good things, they are going to be factoring in whether, how many cloudy days for your location. They usually take the last 25 years of weather data from the nearest airport or whatever.
Yep.
And they factor that into all the calculations, because any panel has a rating, like it'll, maybe 370 watts or 400 watts, but that's in perfect conditions in a lab somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So every time I meet with a client, I'm checking it against the weather. We're building a 3D design with the house and making sure that the pitch of the roof is accurate, the direction it's facing is accurate, so that we get an exact amount of production for the year. And that is, of course, depending on where the sun is positioned in the sky, how many cloudy days, and all of that data. So we use all of that when we try to size a system appropriately for a house. And then in any area where it's snowy, like when I was in Michigan, mm-hmm. The production does drop extremely low in the wintertime. There will be some production because it's unlikely that the panels would be snow covered the entire winter. Mm-hmm. But in areas where there is just more snow, it's going to affect you more. Mm-hmm. So, but Michigan actually gets more sun in the summertime than Florida, believe it or not. And there's also the added, somewhat surprising factor that solar panels perform better in mm-hmm. cooler temperatures, because the voltage is higher in cooler temperatures. And then when it gets really hot outside, the voltage drops on the panels. So like I said, there's a lot of data that goes into those calculations, but it's really important that you're working with a professional that knows enough to know the details of your market, your area, your utility company. And that becomes really difficult when you have some of these massive sales organizations that will literally fly people into a certain city.
Yeah. And
maybe they're from Utah and they're in South Carolina and they're knocking on doors trying to sell solar, but they have no idea they don't know anything about South Carolina's market. They're just doing what their manager told them to do, Yeah. So that's one of the things that in a very major way gives the solar industry a bad name.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate because you seem to be a really good person to know when it comes to solar. So I mean, I wish there were more people like you in the solar world, especially in Canada, because I 100% agree with you. I think what's happening is that they're picking people up from one location, know nothing about the climate in another location, dropping them down, and people have these questions, and they're like, I don't know, I just know it's the next best thing, blah, 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 and basically regurgitating what they've heard from somebody else without any real stats or understanding of it. It's almost like it's like a, kind of like a repeat. Like I'm just going to, go through the motions of it, but not really understand what's been said to me. And that's unfortunate because it is a big financial decision. Solar panels are an investment. They're not cheap. So I think that's great of you. So tell me, how did you get into solar? Where was it like Erin was like, I need to do this?
Yeah, I was actually, I got into solar because I was looking into it for myself as a homeowner in Michigan. And I had a baby and a toddler, and in the summertime, we were paying like $450 a month for the electric bill.
Exactly.
And I couldn't like lower my usage because my kid's room was the worst insulated room in the house. And it was already 10 degrees hotter in the summer and 10 degrees cooler in the winter. So like I had to compensate with my thermostat. So anyways, I didn't make a ton of money at the time. So I really couldn't be paying bills that high. And when I dove into it and I really started learning about the way the utility companies work and the monopoly and the corruption and how there's really no checks and balances. I mean, why is it allowed to be a monopoly? It shouldn't be, There's a reason that competition exists. It's to make companies do better for the people and to treat people better and to allow people to have choices.
Yeah.
So I just really got kind of fired up about being able to help people with this. And at the time, I wasn't planning to own my home much longer because I needed to upgrade. But so I didn't put it on my own home, but I was, I just really dove into the research. So then when I decided I wanted to do it, I found a company that seemed very big and reputable and all that. It was a large company, operating in many states, and they had a training program. And I was like, okay, good. They have training. That's what I need. I need to know all the ins and outs so that I can, so I can represent this accurately.
Yep.
So I found out very quickly the ugly side of sales, and that a lot of the time you're taught things by a manager that aren't true. And sometimes they're telling you to tell a lie intentionally because they know you'll sell more that way. And I right away started asking a lot of questions, and I started getting BS answers from the people around me in the organization. And I started doing my own research and finding out, okay, so I asked this question, I get this answer. Is that answer actually true? Yeah. And a lot of times it wasn't, So I didn't stay at that company very long, but that is where I got my start. And basically the reason I own a company is because I couldn't find a company to work for that would do what they told me they were going to do. They weren't showing me that they were standing behind their product and telling the truth and, taking good care of clients. And if I can't be confident in them, how can a customer be confident in them? Right?
Yep.
So I just decided to go the business owner route so that I could check all the boxes and make sure that the integrity of the product is there no matter what. And I will talk someone out of solar any day of the week if it's not right for them, because, I tend to treat the person sitting in front of me like they're my own family. Would I sell this system to this person if it was my family?
Yeah. All I heard was that you have integrity. That's all I heard. Because it's true. So many people will try and sell you stuff, and it's unfortunate that that are in our industry, there's not more governance in it, and I hate to say it, but like a type of policing aspect. There's laws, for builders liens and stuff like that in Canada, and I'm sure that you guys have something similar out there. You can lien. Well, nowadays you can sue anybody for anything. Right.
Well, there's contractors' licenses that, of course, anyone putting a system on a home has to have. Just like any construction project, you have to use a license.
Business license?
What's that?
Like a business license?
Well, a contractor's license. So that's different than a business license here. I'm not totally sure how it differs from Alberta, but if someone's doing like painting or drywall or electrical, they have to have their specific license for that type of contractor.
Oh,
so solar's no different than that. You can either have an electrical license or a solar contractor's license, at least in the state of Florida. Every state's different, but basically that is only part of the issue. So we've got the installers, the contractors, and the people they hire to do the work. And then we've got the sales end of things on the other side. Okay. So if we have either one of these things, that the integrity is not there, or if the hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing or what have you, then that's where issues can happen. And there's plenty of licensed contractors out there in the solar world that cut corners and don't do things right. I'm sure you're very familiar with contractors that are not so good at what they do, or just take people's money, don't do the job, don't finish the project, whatever. I mean, it's absolutely insane. But it happens all the time. So a lot of the people that you might talk to as a homeowner, if you're trying to go solar, a lot of these people are very new to the industry, and most of them are very excited and they think they're helping people. But the problem is they're just saying a handful of bullet point items that they've been told to say in order to sell a product. Those bullet points don't apply to everyone, but most solar companies will have their sales reps believe that solar is for every house, everyone should have it, and that's like the end all be all of it.
Yeah, it's accurate. So tell me something. What's your position inside your company?
I'm the founder and CEO. So
I just had to hear you say it. I love that.
Thank you.
I love that. Congratulations. You know what? I think that that's an amazing thing that you've not only gone and retained the education for it, that you did it based out of a passion to want better from from this industry. And you know what? You turned it into something, and now you're running the show. And I think that's amazing. And more women need to be celebrated for saying, you know what? No, we're not doing it that way. We're doing it this way. And people need to know about it, especially when you have an advocating type of soul, and you do. So thank you, Erin. I appreciate that. And I'm sure everybody out in the States appreciates you too. So, I mean, the good thing is that, I mean, this airs on TikTok too, right? So, I mean, like all the Americans are going to see. I mean, like, and if you need solar, she'll be legit. She'll be like, no, girl, you don't need no solar on your house. Don't get crazy.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And yeah, it's interesting though, too. I'm in a position where, I love working with builders, and builders love working with me because most of the time they cannot get a straight answer to the questions they need answered. Because there's such a lack of training in the industry. So if they have a question about the codes or the, different situations, like, can we do this? Can we do that? Like, I can answer all their questions as I should be able to. Anyone in solar should be able to, but most of them cannot. So, I work with a lot of custom home builders. I'm one of the only people in the area that does custom projects like pergolas with solar carports. And we do all the way up to full scale commercial jobs too.
I love that. Well, congratulations to you. You're doing great. You know what I will say? The only thing, like out here in Alberta, we love our solar lights. We do. We love our solar lights, whether they're patio, whether they're around the fences, whether they're on the homes. We do like our solar lights because our solar lights, we utilize them basically all summer long because our like I said, our climate is wild right now. I remember when it was like mostly winter, it was like 7 months of winter and 5 months of summer, maybe. Maybe. And now it seems like instead of just having this light kind of cool weather where it's like, mid to, like it would be like the mid 20s would be like the highest we'd get. So do you know the conversion rate? No, you've probably been in the States too long. Yeah.
Go ahead and tell me anyways.
I'm pretty sure the conversion rate is like 60, low 70. Yeah, it's in around there, like low 70s, which is where we were usually pretty content. But now we're like in the 80s and getting into the 90s, and that's hot for us. Like we in Alberta, unless you had an indoor pool, which was a luxury, most people didn't have pools. They had like the little wading pools for their kids in the summer, for like that they take out for 2 weeks. I spent money for like a 16 by 16 foot pool for my kids, and I was like, we're getting a pool because this is insane. And it like, I mean, that it's hot all the time. Like from July till September, we're in the 80s. And I'm like, no, I can't. For, you know, when you're used to being at like that 72, 75, you're like, this is nice. This is nice. And now all of a sudden you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. I grew up in Ontario, so I understand.
Well, yeah, and Ontario gets really hot and really cold depending on where you are in Ontario. I know because my brother's out in Ontario, and he was like sipping Mai Tais by his pool that he had closed down for the winter, but it was like plus 20, and he's like out, and I'm here in Alberta like minus 30, and I'm like, keep your pictures to yourself. So, but you know, we got to bug each other, and we're inside of Canada. We're just in two different areas, right? He's in Ontario and I'm in Alberta. So he likes to bug me when he gets really nice weather. And then when he's got really crappy weather, then I'm the one like, you know, holding up like the drink and like, so, but yeah, I mean, that's just part of it is dealing with like the different temperatures and the fluctuations of them. So the only place I could think of that would be amazing for solar in Canada would be places that have a lot of sun and don't have a lot of really ridiculous precipitation. So like BC, certain parts of BC, certain parts of Alberta. And when I say that, I mean like if you kind of get into probably some of the suburbs in BC, BC does still get snow depending on where you are, if you're like East or West Kootenays. And then you further north you go in BC, it gets cold, right? And so, but there's areas when you go out, like over by Vancouver, when you get closer to the coast, it's not, you don't get I mean, like it turns into absolute like pandemonium when they get snow out there. They're like, oh my God. It's almost, it makes us all kind of giggle because it's like when Texas is like, I got snow, and you see like people driving at like 5 kilometers an hour. There's accidents all over the highway. They got to close down the grocery store, and we're like,
and we just laugh.
We're just like, I'll be like, oh.
The perspective that I would offer on what's the best location for solar, believe it or not, has less to do with sun, the amount of sun that you get, and more to do with how much does your utility company charge per kilowatt hour.
Really?
Because if you think about it, Michigan and Florida get a drastically different amount of sun, total sun hours throughout the year, right? There's lots more clouds in Michigan, and just in general, you know, Florida's the sunshine state.
Yep.
But Michigan charges around 30 cents a kilowatt hour for their energy. And Florida right now is at around 18 cents a kilowatt hour, depending on your utility company. So even though Michigan gets so much less sun, it is actually still a great area for solar, as long as there's not too much shade from the trees. Like there are other factors, of course, that make Michigan a bit of a, you know, like it works for some houses and it doesn't work for others.
Yep.
But because they charge so much for their energy there, in Michigan, you may need a bigger solar system to get the same amount of electricity that a Florida home would get. But as long as it makes financial sense, and that's something that whoever is consulting with you should really help you to figure out. You should see it black and white in the numbers, whether or not it makes financial sense. And so if you're paying a really low rate for your energy in Alberta, then it might not be a good thing for Alberta. But in Ontario, maybe they're charging more. And that might be the same amount of sun, but it actually might work in one spot, but not in another. So
I'll tell you. Fair. So I'll tell you, I was looking down because I was trying to scroll through because I have NMAX. We have NMAX out here. So I was like, oh, I wonder what it is. And I'll give her the number and see what she says. But that's what I was looking for. But unfortunately, I don't know what my password is on my
That's okay.
I remembered on my computer that I'm on right now with you, and I'm not going to like ditch you off the computer so I can go figure it out. But I'm like, that's just the way it, like, I'm just that person that's like, you know what? I have like 5,000 passwords. I can't remember all of them. And then they're like, don't repeat them and change them and make sure they're not easy and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, listen, I'm going to have a keychain and everything's going to be remembered on the keychain because I can't remember anything. And so that's just, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh God. But then I do it on my, you know how you do it? Like, cause you got two different devices. I have my laptop and then I have my cell phone. And if I don't share it with my laptop, then, and vice versa, then I'm useless. I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
But I was curious. I'm not sure what it is right now. I think it's very different the way we do stuff out here. I'm pretty sure. Cause I was like, what do we pay? Cause I'm thinking about energy, right? So I'm thinking about like what we pay per kilojoule and all that. And I'm just like, I wonder what we pay, but I forgot what I'm at right now. And so here you can go on plans. You can either pay on like a sliding scale of what it could be. And then, or you can lock yourself in, which is what I do. I stay on easy max. So I stay locked into an amount. So whether it goes really low or goes really high, I stay the same. I don't care. That way I always plan and budget for what it's going to be. It doesn't matter. But I mean, like all of us are kind of like throwing back at the companies going like, why are we paying 500 administration? Like, why am I paying $100 of administration fees on my $20 bill?
100%. Yeah.
Right.
That's
the biggest gripe most people in Canada will have. Why am I paying $100 on a $20 bill or a $50 bill or a $30 bill? Like, I can appreciate that there's going to be some administrative, charges. I can appreciate that there's going to be some other charges that will make sense, but not when they supersede the original charge of what it is that I'm paying for, of what I've utilized. That doesn't make any sense to people. And I don't blame them. It doesn't make any sense to me either. It's like, but it's like you go out and you buy a burger and the burger itself is like $2, but they're like, well, we got to pay the cook. And then we got to pay for the, the gas and the barbecue, and we got to pay for and then they have all these little fees. And you're like, why is the burger $40? And it was $2. And they're like, well, then the delivery fee. And I'm like, I'm sitting at my table. And they're like, still a delivery fee.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I'll give you a funny one from Florida. So on Duke Energy's electric bill, which that's the utility company for my area here. And Duke Energy's in a lot of states, not just Florida, but on our bills in the state of Florida, they put something called an asset securitization charge. And they created that term that's made up. Yeah. And so they made it up to make sure that no one would ask any questions because no one knows what it means. So they just like gloss on past it when they read their bill. But if you look it up on Google, what that fee is there for is because they built a nuclear power plant in Crystal River and then they broke it. They literally broke it. So they collected all the subsidies from the government, all the free money to build this nuclear power plant. Then they broke it. Someone did something negligent. And of course, they can't decommission it because it's a nuclear power plant. So they can't do anything with it. It has to just sit there. So they decided that each of us is going to pay $5, $10, whatever on our bill to cover their asset that they broke. So that's what that fee is there for. And I mean, that's a fact. You can look it up online. But
I believe you.
It's just a perfect example. Like instead of the shareholders taking a little bit of a hit, the people that actually own the company, they're just going to pass it off to the client, which is, it's insane, but it's a monopoly. What are we going to do?
No, that's a case of how do you sleep at night? Fine. I still live the same life I was living because I'm making everybody else pay for something that I don't want to pay for.
Exactly. Yeah. and that's why I love doing what I do so much and why, regardless of the bad name the solar company is given, I have a mission to educate people on solar, the real truth about it, And we are, in many areas, the only competition that these corrupt utility companies have.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone looks at the rate increases year over year over the course of 10, 15, 20, 25 years,
Yeah.
that amount that they pay per month, it will turn into six figures and even multiple six figures when you look at the compounding effect long term. So, and that's not anything you can't cross check too by just looking at past utility rate increases, you know.
Mm-hmm.
These days I'm seeing in my area around a $350 average utility cost for electrical. 5 years ago, that was a wildly different number. In my area, there was a 20 to 30% rate increase between 2023 and 2022. They went up 20 to 30% within 4 months. So there was $100 jump from the summer before to that summer using the exact same amount of electricity.
That's
insane. Wild. Yeah. So when we've got, 70, 80% of the country living paycheck to paycheck, we've got older people on Social Security and they can't afford this. Then you have all these people going, what am I doing wrong? Why is my electric bill so high? I need to conserve more energy. I need to do this. I need to do that. They're trying to take responsibility for it, but it's really just the rate increases. So there's a very small amount that a homeowner can actually do to get that under control. Now, if anyone does go solar, though, they have to be very, very sure that they're talking to someone ethical, because one of the biggest scams that I see in the solar industry is when a solar system is sized incorrectly, too small typically for the house. So you'll get someone that'll think that a solar system is going to cover 100% of their electrical, but actually they've been sold a system that is only going to cover 60 or 70%. Then 6 months to a year later, they are asking questions like, I don't think this system's working right. Are these panels active? Like, why do I have a big utility bill and a solar payment? And that, in a nutshell, is what has caused a lot of homeowners to be a lot more suspicious of solar in general and feel like it's a scam. And you'll get people that have great experiences and recommend it to everyone. And then you get people with opposite. They want it torn off their roof. They're suing the company, all these things. And there's not a lot of middle ground. It's usually one or the other. And it depends on your area. But in my area, I find it to be about 50-50. It really is a gamble to go with the wrong solar company.
That's unfortunate. Well, at least there's someone like you out there that exists. Now, tell me something. Are you looking to span into Canada, or are you looking to stay solely in the States?
So it's funny you ask that, because my sister lives in Edmonton, and her husband actually signed a solar contract, I don't know, a year ago or a year and a half ago. And my sister told me, because she had questions, and she was like, yeah, he signed this thing and it sounds great, but can you just look at this? And I was like, whoa, hold your horses. Because first I kind of interviewed her a little bit. I was like, did you ask them A, B, C, D, all these questions? Can you answer all these questions for your situation? She couldn't answer any of them. So I told her, I was like, okay, what company was it? She told me the name of the company. And I looked them up online. They had like 3-star reviews overall. I mean, that right there, red flag immediately. Yeah. Anyways, after talking to her for about an hour and filling her in on what they should have filled her in on, all these things, I just said, you are better off just canceling this contract while you can, and then making sure that you can always sign up with them again. You can always re-sign.
Yep, absolutely.
You're comfortable, right? But once you sign up and once they get the ball rolling, then you're on the hook. You can't cancel later. So anyways, so going into Alberta is something I might do if my family is, interested in doing it. That would be my main reason. Right now, I'm mostly focused on the States, but again, I'm very, very, disciplined about only expanding into an area when I really know their situation, because every utility company has different programs. Some utility companies will pay you back for the solar that you're producing if you have extra.
Yep.
Some of them will just take it and just sell it back to you at full price.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, totally. So in some locations, a homeowner might need a battery to store that energy in so that the utility company isn't constantly stealing their energy and taking advantage of them. Yeah. And then in other locations, like in my area where I live, we do have a 1-for-1 credit system, which they've been trying for years to get rid of. And most of the country has already gotten rid of this 1-for-1 credit. But it is truly the most fair way for homeowners because you don't need a battery. The battery is only something optional that you can add if you want backup, like a luxury backup type setup. But my Michigan clients, they almost all have batteries because the utility companies there will take it, give them about 6 cents for it, and then sell it back to them at 30. So yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah, rude.
Yeah, exactly.
Opportunists again. So, okay, so I was able to open up my little account. I was like, I need to do this. Okay, so they have it at, my Easy Max loyalty is $7.29 for a kilowatt. Yeah,
but that's where they trick you. That's where they trick you because there's all those other fees and all the other things. So don't go by the number they tell you you're paying per kilowatt. Go by your total bill divided by how many kilowatts you used that month. And that's the true cost.
Okay, then let's do that, shall we? Let's see.
Now Google is telling me that Alberta on average is around 15.3 cents per kilowatt. I don't know if that would be accurate for you, but
probably accurate, but we'll just do it off of a bill. So let's see. Because I'll just take a bill and then we'll just do the math on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. And then sure, let's just save it there. It's being difficult.
Yeah, they should give you a monthly number for how many kilowatt hours used.
All right, let's see. Hang on, it's taking a second to buy a clue. Because everything's gone paperless now, right? Actually, I don't need to do that. Can I do this? I think I can. Okay. Oh, God. Taking forever. Okay, so it says, let's see. Do I have a credit? No, my credit was because I paid it. Like that. In it. Sure, my printer's loud. Let's see. Sorry. Hope I wasn't making too weird of faces. Okay. So what am I looking for?
So what's the dollar value for that bill that month?
The dollar value was something retarded. $340.83.
Okay, and then does it tell you somewhere how many kilowatt hours you used that month? It would say kWh.
Yep. Let's see. So I have, because we do, so this is on kilowatt. So you just want the kilowatt. You don't want the joules. Because I've got both.
Just the kilowatt hours.
Okay, just the kilowatt hours. Let's see. Energy charged 882 kilowatt hours.
Wow. Well, if that's the case, then you paid around 38 cents per kilowatt hour.
But that's, my bill also includes the natural gas. So if you want to know what the actual cost would be, it would have been 188 for that bill, and then it would have been 882. So they're saying it's about 7 cents is what I'm paying.
188. So 188, that's the electrical portion.
Yeah, the electric portion is 188. Okay.
Divided by 800 and how many kilowatts? 82.
882.
Okay, so that is a bit more reasonable, but still pretty high. It's around 21 cents per kilowatt hour. So
see, and they're saying it's 7 cents. They're liars.
Yeah. Well, when you factor in all those bogus administration costs and the meter charge and the delivery charge and the
distribution is 55, transmission is 42, balance pool allocation. $1
allocation. That's a new one. I'm gonna have to figure out what that one is.
Myself in the face.
Maybe that's
right. And then it's got franchise fee paid to Airdrie. So because we got to ship it out to Airdrie, because Airdrie's so far.
Oh my goodness.
And then I have an administration cost. So if we were doing it right, the bill that you would be doing this on would be $64.30 for 882 kilowatts.
No,
right?
Because typically most of those charges will also scale down based on how much you're using. Most of them. It should say on your bill. But you don't need to dive into your bill that deep if you don't want to, but most charges scale up the more kilowatt hours you use. There's only a few that are usually a flat fee. So like I said, they make it as confusing as possible.
It's like they have those fees that you were talking about too, but I'm not trying to make Albertans lose their mind and start screaming and direct energy and all the rest of them.
And that, again, is really the importance of having someone knowledgeable to look at your bill. That's something that we do, is we do a free bill review before we ever schedule a consultation with anyone. We always look at their bill first, because I don't want to waste anyone's time. And solar isn't right for every house, and it's not right for every situation. So that's the first thing I try to determine is it even worth it for this customer to look into it? And if not, why not?
Well, it's like, and it's funny because until you have all of the information, right? Like we've got a Fortis building. So Fortis is one of the major producers for BC and for Alberta. And so we've got a great big Fortis building not far from us. But then Airdrie is getting at this point, it's like an Airdrie fee. Like for you to get gas and electricity, you got to pay an Airdrie fee to do it. And I'm like, but we have a whole bunch of these outfits everywhere, but it doesn't mean it's the distribution center. Right. So that's what a lot of people need to understand too, right? But if I go find out that it's the distribution center, Erin, I'm telling you, it's gonna be some words. And I'm not doing it on my podcast. I'm doing it in person. But yeah, no, I appreciate, I super appreciate you coming on and talking to me about solar and how honest you are and how you've built this amazing, incredible company. And if you are ever in Alberta, please come find me. I will happily put you in front of a group of people that would happily listen to what you have to say and possibly get you some business out here in Alberta. And then you just have to extend your stay and hang out with kiddos. And you're busy.
Sounds good. Yeah, I would love that. It is on my to-do list that is about as long as both my legs combined. But
I know.
I will definitely let you know if I'm able to get there.
If you're just gonna come do a jaunt for like a week with your sister, I mean, come meet me and I will and give me a heads up that you're gonna do it. And if you want me to put something together to see if there's any type of market for you out here, I know there would be for speaking aspects for sure, but I mean, if there's a market out here for you that would be beneficial to certain areas, then why wouldn't I help you? Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, we need more people like you because everybody's an asshole and dishonest.
I can't say I don't agree.
Yeah, well, that's why people like us exist. We turn into advocates and we tell people the truth, whether they like it or not. Because I tell people all the time, I'm like, as a contractor, you either love me or you hate me. But it all depends on how you do your job. If you do your job and you do it well and you charge accordingly, you love me. If you don't like me so much.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. I would say it's your choice my girlfriend, she got me this it's like a little thing. It says, I match energy. So you go ahead and decide how we're going to act today. She bought me that. I was like, that's right. I'm like, well, you got to call me out like that. She's like, because it's true.
That's
so yeah,
funny.
But anyways, we're going to wrap up, wrap up today. Thank you so much for coming on my show. You are absolutely incredible. I'm very inspired that you have built this wonderful company just based off of having a passion. And I think more people should do it. I know I did, and there's lots of other women out there. So I'm hoping that the rest of them will all come on this show and we can all maybe make a group.
Anyway. Thank you so much for having me. And I do want to mention really quick that I do have a free checklist that I put together for homeowners. So even if they're not in my service area, they can request to download the free checklist. And basically I made it so that they know all the questions that they should get answered by a consultant or salesperson if they are considering solar. And I put a little checklist of some of the red flags that they should watch out for too. So that's something that I did it to help people. So I definitely want people to use it if they are looking into solar.
Okay, hang on here. I'm just pulling up your website. So it is sunforgeenergy.com. Is that where they're going to find it?
Yeah. And actually right this second, I don't think I have it on the website at this moment, but they can send us an email or submit our contact form and request it. And I'll just email it to them if they don't see it on the website directly.
Okay, I love that. So if you want some questions, if you're curious about solar and you want some real brass tacks answers of whether or not it's right for you, reach out to Erin, Sunforge Energy. Go down and ask the question. So there's no real form on there. You have to go in and ask her. So it'll be under the contacts of, send us a question and then just say checklist for solar, and then put who you are. Like, this is who I am. I heard you on, Devil's Advocate Trades Edition. We'd really like your checklist to go through as we're considering solar. And she will happily send it to you because you're amazing. Thank you, Erin.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can also just text the business line too. We can also get it to them that way.
Okay. Only if you have an American plan though.
That's true. Good point. Email us. Email's free.
Right. Email's free. unless you do a WhatsApp. But, exactly. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for hanging out with us and chatting about solar and all of our adventures. So I will see you guys back here in a week. Every week, Wednesday, we drop. So you can always reach out to me, Lisa at lpmenterprises.net if you have questions or want to be on the show. Other than that, have a great day and we'll check you out next time. Bye, guys.